Welcome to the Doctrine of Happiness. I am Natasha Laujavardi on a global journey to uncover what it really means to live in happiness, empowerment, and authenticity across all areas of life, both in business and private moments. From vibrant cities to remote sanctuary, I'm meeting people from diverse backgrounds to explore how culture, beliefs, spirituality, gender diversity, and even sexuality shape their understanding of fulfillment and happiness. Together, we dive into the thought form and values that drive their choices, sharing stories and challenge, inspire, and uplift. With the help of a groundbreaking algorithm, we will relieve not only the happiness people are aware of, but also the hidden pieces in their blind spot. This journey goes beyond the surface to reveal the truth that connect us all. Join me as we redefine happiness, fulfillment across cultures and lives. Welcome to Doctrine of Happiness. I'm sitting in Lower Mustang and I have two very special guests here. So you have the mic, you start the presentation.
Yeah, I'm Isabel, so I'm from Singapore. Osh, he's my husband. We're both from Singapore, and Singapore is a very big city and like with not so much nature, and that's why we often find ourselves coming back to places like this, Nepal.
In the mountains. Wild mountain.
Where we can find nature, where we can find mountains, lakes, and nature more so than we can find in Singapore.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah. You wanna?
So Singapore is a very grey concrete jungle.
Yeah.
With not that much nature, although most of our nature is man-made. So we do claim ourselves to be like a city, a garden city, but our nature is all gardens, manicured mostly.
So it's man-made.
It's all man-made mostly, yeah. So we find ourselves drawn to natural nature, no matter where it is. Malaysia, Thailand, Australia, and Nepal. And Nepal here, you have the views of the magnificent mountains.
Yeah.
And it just makes us in awe of the sheer beauty and the sheer skill of everything. Our tallest mountain in Singapore is not a mountain, it's a hill. It's 163 meters high.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that's where we find ourselves on like weekends when we need to train up to prepare ourselves for the actual mountains.
No, I think my first raw experience of nature actually came a couple of years back when I was in Finland.
In Finland?
In Finland.
Yeah.
I spent about 1 year in Finland, and my time there, I don't know, the forest changed me in a way.
Oh, wow.
In a way. Before Finland, I've of course, trekked many places. I've been to the Alps many times, but it was different. Being in Finland, nature was everywhere. The proximity to nature was very accessible. I was staying not too far from a lake. I could just go every day, walking to a lake. Saunas everywhere.
Wow.
I don't know. I can't really explain what was it there that I don't know whether it was the peace the space had to offer. There was a lot of space in nature. It's not I've been to many places, but then not necessarily, I don't feel like there is space.
No.
But in Finland, I felt that.
So the space, is it the peace you are referring to when you talk about space?
I feel like when you have physically space,
yeah,
when there is not too many people,
yeah,
then you also have a little bit of space mentally in your mind, because if you don't have that physical space, you cannot access the mental space. And I think that connection, I felt it when I was there, because I was given, like, the place gave me that kind of space to tune in a little bit more.
Okay. So you went more in your from your outer world into your inner world.
That was the first time that I actually have that kind of connection. Before that, I think I was oblivious. I didn't even was aware. I was not even aware that I actually a couple of years back, I was also living in Germany, and I was struggling a little bit with identity, self-identity kind of
life, as all of us.
Yeah, and then being young at that age, you didn't know what you were feeling, and you experience some emotions, but then you don't know what they mean. But then I found the answers when I was there
in the nature.
Yeah.
So the space around you, it's like a breathing, when you have a breathing space, that gave you answer you were looking for.
Yeah.
Can you, if you are into, thoughts, we have two dots and you're connecting them, what do you think it is?
I think no matter what dots you're trying to connect, it starts from yourself, right? Like, I am still finding answers. I know that there is I'm quite lost actually at this point in my life. I don't really know, kind of at a crossroad, don't really know what to do next. But then I think the important thing is to realize that something is not aligned, and it's a process of learning and a process of exploring and then finding out what aligns with you.
That's very, very clever.
Yeah. So I
way of thinking.
I'm in that process of, don't know, becoming
something else. You need to change somehow.
More than the corporate 9-to-5 grind that I have back home in Singapore.
Yeah. What do you do?
I was trained as an engineer.
Yeah.
But I never practiced it. Engineering is not very lucrative in Singapore, so I'm a product designer, so I designing softwares in the urban planning space. We work with governments to basically try to understand how they're doing urban planning and how these softwares, simulating the climate, how building certain buildings in a certain way, certain typology, planting how many trees, and changing the building facades of certain buildings. How will it change and how would it cool down the city? So a lot of software design, in this kind of planning spaces for me.
So from what I understand, you have a very big background with a lot of the experience. You travel a lot. You have been in Germany. You found something in Finland, and you just come from ABC, Everest route. You guys, you were hiking there, and it sounds like you are two persons that really looking deeply in nature and connecting and find the deep meaning of everything in life. And that's very inspiring. It's inspiring to talk to you guys, inspiring to see that you actually have the courage to say, we want something else, something deeper, and not human-made nature or. So is it somehow the deep happiness? The whole podcast, videocast here is about what does happiness means for you. So you have the high level of education and 9-to-4 job and everything, and you are in the process to find something else because you need something else. So that's the change, and that's inspiring. You actually take action, and you're brave to say, I want something else, because most of people, they just stay there and they never take the first step.
Yeah, I think it's actually scarier to stay than to change, because if you I think about if I continue staying the way I am now, 5 years later, 10 years later, it's gonna be a life of regrets.
Yeah.
So moving sometimes can be moving backwards, but at least you're like, finding
You're in movement.
You're moving.
Yeah.
Instead of being stagnant in
Yeah.
life. And I think that's something, it's something important. I was just sharing last night after the hike that we did.
Yeah.
That it was so, it was so different from the Everest base camp trek that we did because it was just us in nature. There wasn't queues of people, and then you could stop and look around and appreciate what is standing around you
Yeah.
so much more. Yeah.
So what about you? What do you do?
I'm currently an outdoor educator in Singapore. I work with Outward Bound, and I bring students in the concrete Singapore out to the jungle to camp for 5 days.
Wow.
So that's my so-called 9 to 5 job. Although for me, it's not 9 to 5. It's Monday to Friday, 24 hours each day.
Okay. So that's your vacation when you're not in Singapore.
So, in a sense, it's already not a typical job. And in this line, I gain satisfaction from seeing the changes in my students from day 1 to day 5. Like seeing whether or not I can get them to appreciate the outdoors more. And this was something that I actually got into when I was a college student. When I was 17 years old, I joined my school's mountain trekking team, where we climbed some mountains in Malaysia. And then when I was 18, I was a senior in school, and we coached the juniors to climb the same mountains. And so this started getting me kind of like both hooked in terms of myself to the outdoors, as well as in allowing others to also feel that love for the outdoors to help inspire more people. My first experience in the outdoors was in this mountain in Malaysia, Gunung Tahan. And it was one of those days when you are like high up in the serenity of the campsites. I woke up earlier in the morning, maybe 6, 7. And then I just went off by myself, like slightly away from the rest of the group. And I sat on a rock and just started deep thinking, pondering to myself. And I think that experience of sitting there and really enjoying that quietness was my first experience that started my love for the outdoors. And later on, in some of the later mountains, like when I'm standing on top of a hill and gazing down at the town below, where you see the tiny little cars, the houses, and you just think about how small you are in this universe as compared to the way everything is.
Yeah.
And
you get humble and somehow.
Yes.
Yesterday we were standing in front of Himalaya. We were up there, and it was like, wow, we are so small. We are so small, and we think we know so much when you're in the 9 to 5, going around like this. But when you get out of it, or when you're sitting somewhere as you're explaining, and you have your experience, that changed something. So what was it changed for you?
It's something I cannot explain.
Yeah.
I mean, so back then I was 18, 19 years old.
Wow, you were very aware at that age.
I think my family is quite into nature. When I was a kid, my mom and my uncles would actually bring me out to our hills in Singapore. And so I have some vague memory of that, but it's so long ago that I really cannot put it together anymore.
No.
But I think that was one of the building blocks in my growth. So in college, I started in mountain trekking in nearby Singapore, where we climbed hills and mountains in Malaysia, 2,000 meters high, 1,000 plus. And then when I went on to university, I started to go higher and higher
Wow.
into mountaineering as well. And so my first experiences into 4,000 meters and so on and so forth. So later on, I started pursuing more and more mountaineering with a couple of friends. And in mountaineering, where we climb peaks. So I've climbed in India, in Nepal, as well as in Chamonix, France.
Wow.
And like they call Tukuche the Chamonix of Nepal, according to the first climber of Annapurna.
Yeah.
Herzog Maurice. So Chamonix is a haven for mountaineering and skiing in its accessibility to the mountains.
Yeah.
Where you just take a ski lift up and you can immediately climb around and you like train and climb. And so some of those experiences that I have had there, waking up 2 a.m. in the morning, and then you start your walk across the glacier and then start climbing. And then as the sun breaks at maybe 5 a.m., you start seeing the whole valley behind you open up. You start seeing that glow on the mountain tops behind you. That also just makes you marvel at the scale of the universe.
Yeah.
So I think that's also something that got me hooked and to continue to pursue this passion of mine in concrete Singapore. In Singapore, it's so difficult to actually train for altitude because you have no altitude there.
Yeah.
All we can do is physical training.
Yeah.
Then you try to prepare as much as you can before you really go for your expeditions.
So, for what I understand, you find your inner peace and happiness when you're in nature.
Yeah.
So
I
that's
think a little bit different from Isabel. She finds her peace in, I think, solitude in nature, where you have that space to yourself.
Yeah.
For me, I just like being in nature.
Yeah.
Whether it's by myself or whether it's crowded, I don't mind. Like, nature is nature, and to me, I think it's something that we can all share. And not something that we should keep to ourselves.
That's beautiful, because then you have the duality in your relationship, and that's the balance between you two. Because I'm like you, I like the peace and quiet and not too many people when I track or walk. And my husband, he's like you. It's okay if there's other people around, and somehow we balance each other with different kind of energy and thoughts and thought form and how we approach life. So you bring something that means the opposite of what you bring in that. So, and that's kind of the balancing and finding a happiness in two opposite sides. So what is the cultural thing from your country? How is it? What is how or what or how do you perceive happiness in your culture when you come from?
I think there's two ways about work and happiness in Singapore. One is you look at work as work, and then you pursue your own happiness outside of work. And the other line is to find something you enjoy and you work on what you enjoy, and you find happiness in work. So I think for me, I'm still at the stage where I can garner satisfaction in work and kind of happiness in seeing the students smile. Yeah, that's for me. I think, but a lot of Singaporeans, I feel like those in the corporate sector, the finance, banking, they work purely for money, I guess. And then they take holidays to find their happiness. How about you?
I think to start with, Singaporeans are a very privileged bunch of people. We have the road paved out for us very nicely in our generation. I wouldn't say so for my grandfather's generation, but our generation, we're very, very lucky. We have everything that we need. So much so that like there's almost a path that is paved out for every Singaporean. No, it's not a path to happiness. It's a path to stability, not happiness.
So it's like insurance.
Yeah,
it's secured. You are insecure somehow in life. There's a path, and if you go that way, you live like a life insurance from the government.
The standard path is like, you go to university. I mean, everyone goes through school, and then you go to university, find a partner, you get married, get a house. That's like the perfect, A++ kind of situation. Typical Singapore dream, but
it's the same in Denmark.
I feel like it has expired, this dream.
Yeah.
And more people are realizing it.
It's not enough.
It's not quite, is that what life is, to do this? And I think people are still okay with what they're doing, the 9 to 5, because perhaps they haven't realized it. Like I took how many years to actually realize this was not right for me. And I think the first step is really to even realize and acknowledge that there is a misalignment, and then to find that, to kind of be get some courage to be brave enough to step out.
So what's the reaction if somebody try to step out of the culture or the collective awareness?
I think it's slowly changing. It used to be why why are you doing this? Why don't you just have a stable income and have a family? But it's changing now. And I think at least for me, I'm very inspired by people who have stepped out. I'm also very very inspired and very motivated when I see more and more people. Actually, there is a trend of like more and more people realizing that this is not for them. There's more. So they're all stepping out to find their own journey. And I think it's quite encouraging to see that the society is changing. And it's no longer it's no longer just a job. It's more to life than that.
So there is more to life in that. And that's very difficult to explain to the people that are actually happy. If you ask you or me, we will say, no, they don't know the deep meanings of happiness, but we don't know. But we assume that they're living the superficial part of the happiness because they haven't been in the deep. But we don't know that because maybe they are really happy deep down. But somehow when you get out of the security and the line it has been made for you, you learn a lot about you and your capacity and what you can do and your own abilities, because we have so many different abilities that are hidden or not activated, because when we follow a path that has been, right there for us, we don't use ourselves in the same way. So what I hear is you are trying to activate. You are aware of you have so many other abilities and there is something is not in alignment.
and you want to activate them one by one. And what I hear you're saying is you find your purpose in life when you are 18 years old and you are working with nature and we have people that makes you happy. So that's so fantastic when you look at the gender diversity in your relationship. You complete each other somehow in a very nice way.
So for me, actually, so although you say that I found my purpose in life when I was 18, I think not so much either, because after that, when I went on to university, I studied something else. I was in architecture. I worked as an architect for 2 years, and I was like her. I was not contented.
All right.
So I decided to leave my job. Partially because I had an expedition to the mountains. And it was a month long. So I didn't have enough leave and I quit my job. And after that, when I was looking around for what do I continue on as an architect in another firm? Do I go to the government sector? Which is the common route for most people who study architecture. Either you be an architect or you be in the government as somebody who works with architects. But I thought to myself that I was young enough, and why not pursue something that I felt that I could enjoy more. So that's what brought me into the outdoor education space, where while educating people, I could actually still enjoy the outdoors myself. So I think that was one of the big crossroads that I encountered like 5 years ago.
Oh, wow.
Then, it's brought me to where I am now, where when I'm back in Singapore, I work in nature, and then I can still continue to pursue my further passions during the holidays. Can go abroad to other places. For the both of us, I think every year we go on like 1 or 2 trips at least.
Yeah.
Where we go to places where we can be in nature. It's actually not a really typical Singaporean holiday, I feel, where a lot of people, a lot of my friends, when they go on holiday, they will go to the cities and then just look at museums, look at various attractions in the city, and occasionally they go for their hikes out into the mountains. Whereas for us, the city is just a start point, a rest point, a resupply point, and then we spend weeks in the outdoors.
Yeah. So it sounds for me that you have been through the same process, but somehow you knew your connection to nature, and when you found the courage to change everything, and you're doing what you're doing today, it's the way of empowerment. It's the way of constantly looking for happiness. Okay, I'm an architect. It doesn't make me happy. I don't feel empowered. I have to do something. Then you find what you're doing today, and now you feel empowered. And then you say, okay, I'm going back to the concrete world of, the system you're living in. But you are very aware of, okay, I am going to take my vacation out there. I'll keep searching, developing, and trying to be empowered in my life, and try to be happy.
Yeah,
That's my language and interpretation of what your guys you're saying. I don't know if it's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think on like I do find joy, happiness in work, and I pursue more happiness when I go abroad.
Abroad.
Yeah.
In the nature.
In the nature, especially. Yeah.
Because you don't go to city vacations, you go into nature.
Yeah.
It's the mountains calling. Yeah.
The mountains are calling and I must go.
And when you tell me your story, is that you feel empowered when you are developing yourself and all the time saying, okay, something is in alignment here. I have to figure out what it is. I have the power. That's the empowerment. I have the power and I have a courage to step out and say, okay, I'm not doing whatever all the other people doing. I keep searching. And that's empowerment, actually. Not knowing, it's a very good thing sometimes, because then you have your curiosity.
Yes. I think knowing that you don't know,
Yeah.
it's like the first step, right?
And that gives you the space.
Yes.
Not knowing, accepting that I don't know, it's okay, and find a happiness in not knowing is actually a very big point of experience of, I can be happy. Either I don't know what's going to happen.
Exactly. I think I found peace in that.
Yeah.
Not knowing. And like, I think I used to be very anxious about used to plan a lot of things. And, but now I think I have changed in a way that I found peace of not knowing what's going to happen tomorrow. That's okay.
That's okay.
That's okay. And I'm okay with that. And I don't feel anxious that I don't know. It's just I accept where I am right now.
That's a very big wisdom in being happy. That's one of the cornerstone. When I do, talk to different people, it's like you have building different kind of cornerstone around your life, through life, and everything is about how can we be more happy? How can we be more joyful? How can we be more fulfilled or empowered in what we are doing? So that is very inspiring. So what would you like to tell our public? We have a podcast listeners and we have videocast viewers that is sitting here and listening to you guys. If they are sitting, if they are stuck in life or work, or they don't know, they know they need something, but they don't know what it is. How to change it, and why should they change it?
I don't have the answers to those because I'm also searching for them myself. But yeah, like I said, it's really understanding yourself. What is it that you like, and what is it that you that makes you feel alive? I started thinking about the moments that actually make me feel alive, and they were all in nature. So for me, I think a very, very big part of being happy is the proximity to nature. Having that adds a sense of it helps you. For me, it gives me the mental space, so that's a very important part for me. But I think no matter where people are, I think it's important to find out what makes them feel alive.
So aliveness is the main thing for
and
happiness
not being,
for you.
What I say, living life mechanically and every day on an autopilot, you wake up, you do the same thing.
I think it's a fantastic advice for some couple coming from Singapore, because I know how mechanically everything is in Singapore. So thank you for that. What about you?
I think when I left my job in 2019, I left without a plan.
Wow.
Then after I left, then I started to search around. So I think it's about not being afraid to take that step. And then after you raise your courage to take that step, then it shows your commitment to change yourself.
So you are actually saying the same, that it's okay to not know and do something and embrace the not knowing and find the courage to actually go and do what is you are looking for.
I think so.
So that's the empowerment. And you know what? That's the common thing between you two. That's make you the empowered couple that just go through the Mount Everest base camp and here, and is very wonderful to see and experience, guys. So you are a power couple. So what is the advice?
To garner your courage and take your first step when you are feeling unsure.
Fantastic. Finding your courage and daring to take the first step towards happiness. Fantastic. Thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it. And
Thank you.
I think you're very inspiring. And we say namaste here from Lower Mustang. And goodbye for this time.
Namaste.
Thank you for joining me on this journey to explore happiness and fulfillment in all its forms, in business and in personal life. I hope these stories and insights inspire you to view your own path with fresh perspectives. Stay curious, keep pushing forward, and come back next time as we dive even deeper into what it means to live fully and consciously. Until then, embrace what empowers you, pursue what fulfills you, and remember, true happiness starts within.